Good morning, traders. I'm Dennis Dick.
And I'm Joel Elconin. Welcome to Thursday's edition of Pre-Market Info.
S&P futures bouncing back here nicely this morning, getting up to that resistance area where we got to yesterday. Yesterday high 1694, today's high 1694. I'm telling you right now, levels seem to be working. You have these key levels, and they run right to those points, and then they seem to fall off them a bit.
Yeah, in the words of the late and great Jim Morrison, are we gonna break on through to the other side today?
I know.
Finally get through 1695 and go up to the $1,700 level. But what about that crazy selling balance yesterday on the 4 o'clock close,
Yeah.
Dennis? You get caught in anything on that?
No, it was actually good. Like I always like when you get the big sound balances. End of the month, you typically will have institutions jockeying for positions, and there was some institutions that had huge MOC orders. Those are market on close orders, and basically at the close, it was across the board. They were selling everything. There was a few exceptions, obviously, but the majority of stocks were sold off pretty hard. Even bring up the Procter and Gamble chart. I know it has earnings today, and we'll get to it in a second. But if you look at yesterday's close, the stock gap down on the closing print. Another 50 cents. If you can zoom in there, you can see right around. I'm just going to my chart too there. So right around 330, 345, the imbalance comes out, shows a large sell imbalance, and they start selling the stock off. And then on the closing print, it goes from 80.80 down to close at 80.30. So a 50-cent gap down on the closing print. Kind of hung out there after hours, and now obviously the earnings here after hours, and the stock is popping up. But this is just shows you there's big institutions that really move the market around. Usually you'll see those moves retrace. That is what we're seeing today. Obviously, we're seeing a little bit extra too. But even after the market closed, after all those stocks closed weak, the S&P futures were bouncing back almost immediately in the after hours, 3, 4, 5 points, and a lot of the individual stocks were bouncing back as well. So a lot of equities closed weak due to large sell imbalances.
Yeah, just a quick note on the Procter and Gamble. If you were paying attention to your levels here, it did get to 80.16, where you had a low on Tuesday at 80.15, and then the low on Monday at 80.05. So basically, that closing balance put in place a triple bottom here. The good news comes out now. PG is on the
Yeah,
rise.
and if we just go to PG, just since we're talking about, they reported 79 cents versus 77. They actually did guide a little bit higher on their full year for 2014 too. See earnings per share growth of 5 to 7%, sales growth of 3 to 4%, and the stock is popping here this morning. It's trading at 81.70. Huge level here though for the stock. 82 bucks has been big before. We have got over there a couple of times, but the institutions kind of are lining up there this morning. So I think you might find some institutional resistance here just at that 81.90 area as we approach that 82 level.
Yeah, 82.09 is the high in the pre-market here. You do have an all-time high at 82.35, I believe. There's a couple levels to look at, but ahead of that, you are seeing some multiple tops at the 81.70 level on the chart, 81.59 to 64. So
It's thickening up in there.
PG,
Yeah.
yeah, it's thickening up there. So don't get too carried away there on the open if you're looking to buy something with PG.
ExxonMobil just reported here at 8 o'clock, and the stock is trading down significantly. They missed a buck 55 versus a buck 90, so that's a big unexpected miss from ExxonMobil. S&P futures seem to be shrugging it off because we're still trading near the highs on that, despite the ExxonMobil miss. We are down at $1.30 right now here in the pre-market. Joel, where's the stock heading?
Well, 92.20 is just what we hit in the pre-market here. That coincides with the low that we had on July 9th at 92 and a quarter, and then you had another low on July 8th at 91.90. So I mean, $92 level, man. If I'd been holding this stock short, you get
Yeah.
this kind of reaction down to the $92 level. You got to expect some support there. I just don't think they're going to take it out and beat it, to the woodshed all day long.
Well,
So
well,
keeping an eye on the $92 level.
yeah, I agree because 92 was a level that we've talked about on the show here forever. I can remember even going back in the last 3, 4 months, it topped out multiple times at 92. We tested 92, we held. 92 is a big bogey for this, so it could get an initial bounce there. Obviously, earnings. We know technicals take a back seat when fundamentals fundamentals are at play here, and obviously they're still digesting the earnings miss here, so nothing is in stone. But 92 is where the stock has found support in the past, and I wouldn't be surprised if you did see a little bit of a bounce at the 92 just off the hop if we get down that low. Um, Lots of other companies here reporting. We won't be able to give them all, but Kellogg's just reported here too. Symbol K. Stock is offered down here. They had $1 versus 97, so they beat, but they cut their sales growth. It was targets were up at 7% for sales growth. They're cutting it down to 5%. I think that's what's knocking it down a little bit here. Very, very, very light volume. Just a few hundred shares. There was an institutional cross at 66.24. But if you back that off, there's only been 400 shares trade here today. But it is offered down at 65.80, and nobody's sniffing them. The best bid is 63 and a quarter, which is 3 points down. I don't think you're going to see it do that today. I think it will close up, but it does look like Kellogg is going to open in the 65 handle.
Yeah, you're not eating your Rice Krispies for breakfast anymore or something?
I like
What's
those
going
vanilla Rice Krispies. I like those ones. The original Rice Krispies, they came out with those vanilla ones. I'm like, man, those things are tasty. Those vanilla Rice Krispies. That is some tasty cereal.
on? 66 was a good support level, Dennis. Had some lows at 66.05 and 66.10. We are offered below that in the pre-market. We haven't traded below it as of yet. 66.12 is yesterday's low, so we'll look at that. If it starts to rebound as initial resistance, if we're going to trade under this 66 level here, 65.63 was the low that you had on July 10th, so that should be your first area of support.
YELP reported earnings there last night, and it looks like it's one of your big winners here on the day. They only lost a penny. We're supposed to lose 4 cents. 55 million versus 53 million on revenue. They guided 2013 sales guidance a bit higher, 222 versus to 224 versus 219. And the stock is making new 52-week highs here today for the YELP monster. Investors here, the shorts are yelping, I tell you that, because here's a stock. You just can't, these high flyers, they just continue to, it doesn't really even almost seem to matter what they report. It seems like there's just, they just keep climbing a wall of worry sometimes, because everybody else cite valuation, they'll cite different things. But these high flyers with these high multiples just keep moving up. Kind of reminds me of the tech bubble a little bit.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
47.80 is the only thing to look at here. I'm in the pre-market. That's the pre-market high. Since making that 47.80 high, we've traded down to 47. That's going to be minor support here. But the dailies, weeklies, monthlies, yearlies, decade charts aren't going to do us any good on this one.
All-time high.
New all-time high.
Chesapeake CHK just reported earnings here. 51 cents. Chucky, 51 cents versus 41 cents. Here's a stock that's quietly just been marching here. We bottomed back in mid-June in the 19 handle, and we've turned around and we've been climbing straight up, and now we're breaking out here again this morning. Yesterday's high 23.54. We're sharply above that, trading 24.03 right now. So CHK showing a little bit of life.
Yeah, and then someone really turned up the trading volume in this the last couple days, from averaging around 7-8 million. We traded almost 16 million yesterday. So someone had a little bit of inkling what was going on here. We are busting out pre-market high 24.26. I guess we'll have to go to a weekly here to get a better perspective. This stock has not traded up near the $25 level since April of 2012. But Dennis, isn't this maybe one of those occasions? This is a pretty thick stock here, where some of the stock in the book is going to hold it down a little bit, maybe open it under 24. I mean, if this thing opened anywhere near yesterday's high, 23.50, 23.60, 23.70, maybe a lower risk buying opportunity.
Yeah, 24 probably could potentially hold it down. We'll have to watch the volume. It's been 83,000 shares trade in the pre-market already. Yeah, but that number will climb exponentially as you approach the open. So not sure. I can't see in the book what's at 24 here. I didn't note it actually either. But the stock obviously is at a key level there, being $24. The big hole numbers always come into play. So you might want to keep an eye on that 24 level and see if you get a little bit of initial resistance there off the hop. But we still got an hour of pre-market trading to kind of gauge where the stock's going to open.
Was this what was Icon messing around in this thing under 20, or was that
Can't remember.
T
Maybe
Boone Pickens? It might have been T
I
Boone
think it was
Pickens.
T Boone. Maybe I can't even remember. We're so short-term traders. Sometimes you forget about. But somebody was messing around with this a while ago. I do remember something being said on Chesapeake. Aubrey though was dumping stock again.
Yeah,
The CEO had to dump again. He got margin called out of this a couple of times down in the teens, I think. So it's funny. He was in there, and obviously for a long time the CEO there, and he had all kinds of trouble trading his own stock. He sold at the lows a couple of times, and he had to because he was on margin. He put his money where his mouth is. Years ago, he bought a whole pile of his own company's stock on margin. I can remember him being on CNBC, and the stock was up at 60, and he's like levered, and he's like, I think it's going to 100, and I'm putting my money where my mouth is. It's my company, and he was borrowing he's levered, owning his own company. So you got to give him that. But he was wrong, and the financial crisis got him back in 2008, and he had to dump a whole bunch of stock in the teens and just lost a ton of money on his stock. So you kind of feel bad because the CEO is putting his money into his company, even levering into his company, and the financial crisis got him. So
and let a lesson be learned from that.
leverage and investing, I don't like that. I know they always say, oh, you can borrow. One thing, a little bit of leverage with trading. It's another thing when you're, borrowing to invest, because when you do obviously get a big market turn down like we had in 2008, a lot of people lose it all. So that's a scary thing when you put leveraging with investing. Joel, let's talk about J.C. Penney here because wow, what an afternoon for it. The New York Post in the yesterday afternoon, if we bring up yesterday's chart, reported that CIT, which is one of their major lenders, was cutting their credit for their apparel shipments. And obviously that made the market really nervous. The stock was trading up there over $16 when that article broke, got down to as low as 14.10 before
Yeah.
bouncing back at the end of the day to 14.60. Now this morning, J.C. Penney has come out and they're making a statement saying that is absolutely not true. So J.C. Penney is bouncing back a lot here. But then you got Citigroup saying they don't care. They're actually downgrading the stock here to sell with a price target of 11. So lots of news here on J.C. Penney today. Lots of volatility. Obviously, incredible volatility yesterday. I was even noticing the preferred stocks were getting hit, and when they're hitting the preferreds, it's telling me that they're really nervous. Obviously, like a hybrid debt there. So, what do you think of this J.C. Penney movement?
Yeah, I got a call from Jake here on the news desk about 355, with the news, and I did a quick technical look at it, and we were at the $14 level. I mean that held 1355 was the recent low of the move, and then we were going back at some of the historical charts, and it bottomed there in '09, it bottomed there in '02, it bottomed there in '01. So hoping it was going to sneak under 14 and get a chance to nibble at it, but it reversed course.
Hey Joel, got to break in here with your jobless claims for the week ended July 27th, coming in at 326,000. Economists were looking for 345,000. Continuing claims for the week ended July 20th, coming in at 2.951 million. Economists were at 3 million.
Okay, thanks, Brent. Just to finish up J.C. Penney, we did get a bounce up to that nice round hole number here of 16.
Finding
So,
some resistance there.
yeah, I'd say 1594 to 16 here with the mixed news from Citigroup
Yeah.
and whatnot. So you can use those. Use 16 as your initial resistance point. And looking at the daily charts, yesterday's high was 1643, but I don't think all those chumps that bought it in the 14 handle are going to let it get that high.
Yeah, people pick a bottom, and people who were caught long the thing, and obviously, boom, 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 all of a sudden they're down 10% before they even blink an eye, and then all of a sudden it's giving them that opportunity to get that money back. I think it's going to find some resistance here too. Obviously, just looking at yesterday's trading action, you can see how nervous people are in something like this. You get an article just breaking from New York Post, and boom, and they're all dumping, hit any bid you can. J.C. Penney, going to zero, or some people get all nervous and scared.
Very,
Obviously,
very credible news source.
it
New
is
York.
though. Yeah, New York
That's how I
Post,
get all
very
my
credible
economic
news source. So
news.
not dissing the New York Post whatsoever, but just showing, this wasn't company news. This wasn't something. This was a report from the New York Post, but it is credible. And obviously, if they're cutting, their credit, that is a scary thing for an apparel retailer who lives on credit. So that was scary for a minute there. And obviously, they are coming out this morning and saying there's nothing to it. So we'll see what happens. Couple other ones here. Just want to focus on Facebook for a minute because obviously Facebook got up over $38 there yesterday. We thought it might do something like this. I actually did try to play it too when I was coming back through it. Got up, trade as high as 38.31, but then that was the old breakout becomes a fake out, and actually the stock starts to sell off pretty severely actually after it broke out through 38 and came back through it. So you caught a few other people buying it above 38 again, and now the stock is trading back in the 37 handle. Got as low as 36.33. I can't believe I couldn't hold my short. I got shaken out. It was hanging out there at 38 for too long, and I basically scratched it, and I had a good call on it. So got it. I'm good at getting in the trades, and I guess not good at getting out of that one.
Yeah, two things on that. One was, we've talked about the trading scenario where, you have a resistance point like that and, trying to play it when it goes up through it as opposed to playing it when it comes back down through
Yeah.
it. Because you got to imagine, I mean, I could hear him yelling on the Morgan Stanley desk from here when that thing got above 38, to get the hell out because, the millions and millions and millions of shares that they bought there on the IPO, they probably never thought they were going to see that level again. But now that you do get a decline like that down to 36.80, getting a little bit of rebound here after you make a high like that, sellers just start picking their levels a little choosier, especially after this like historic 12-point run for this stock. So I think sellers are going to start stepping in here in the 37 handle. 37.13 is where we're trading. The pre-market high, you did get a bounce up to 37.43 or 37.47 early this morning, but I'm looking at let's call it 37.50 to be a real good resistance level on Facebook today.
You want to see some crazy charts? Bring up the charts from Visa and MasterCard yesterday. This was absolutely incredible. Let's start with MasterCard because they actually did report earnings yesterday morning and the stock was trading up about 20 bucks on their good earnings report. But if you zoom in here, actually if you can zoom in even to yesterday's chart there, Joel, just so we just don't see it on a bar, we'll let Joel get the intraday chart. You can really see what the movement was. So they reported earnings, stock trading up $20. Everything seems rosy. Then there's that court ruling comes out.
Okay.
Basically, bottom line is that it could end up reducing swipe fees, and they absolutely massacre Visa and MasterCard on that. It goes from 620, 623 the high, down to 567.02 in the matter of an hour. Just an incredible sell-off. Visa too sells off severely, and then they bounce all the way back. And look where it closed. It closed up at like 610.61. Is up another 7 points. So they shrug it off after all that. After all that steep selling, they come back and now they've just shrugged it off, and it's almost back to the highs.
Yeah, we talked about this yesterday as one of your long-term investments, and did you,
I,
you
I
mentioned
lightened
that
it
you
up.
were looking this.
Yeah.
Yeah, you lightened it up, or
I
did you?
did lighten it up yesterday. I sold half my MasterCard position. I've had it since I was actually looking. I think I bought it 160 bucks. It's a long-term investment. I basically, almost quadrupled my money on it. So it's been a really good investment for me, obviously. I'm looking at this. I'm like, they really reduced swipe fees and stuff. That could hurt it a bit long term. So I decided to take half the money off the table here. I'm still in it. I'm still long it. I still think MasterCard long term could go higher. But I don't like the fact that, boom, you watch 60 points fall off it. It gives me back 50 in an hour. I'm like, well, I felt like it was a gift. So that's why I'm going to lighten up half of it here.
The trader in you took over
It
there.
did.
Took over
It
your,
really did.
yeah.
The trader took over in me, and I should have maybe just shorted it or something in my trading account instead of selling half my investment. But whatever. Obviously, the stock, there was a lot of nervous people there for a few minutes. I just can't believe it can bounce back that quickly and basically get back to all the losses. Let's.
Yeah, I mean that's also. I mean, you have a $600 stock here. You have, spreads, 50 cents wide,
Oh
a
yeah, a
hundred
dollar
shares
wide
up.
sometimes.
And then something like this. I bet you, I wasn't watching it. I bet you when it went down here under 600, I bet you had a $5 or $6 or $10 spread in there.
You probably
Because
had a
there's
few
just
points. I don't know if you'd have 5 or 6, but you'd have a lot. If you could get rid of all that, high frequency, like enveloping liquidity, if you that which really moves, it's not even really there. You could lose all that. I bet you, the real spread was probably even, probably very wide, like you were saying. So there's not wasn't a lot of real buyers in there. There might have been a few high frequency, envelope traders where they basically just sit on the bid and they sit on the offer, but they float, and as the price comes down, they keep moving their bids down. They're market making to a certain extent, but it's kind of like fleeting market making. So
Yeah, things should probably thicken up between here and that all-time high 626.23.
let's go to Apple here quickly before we run out of time, because Apple actually is showing a little bit of life here this morning. Citigroup, or no, I'm sorry, Jefferies is raising their price target up to 450 this morning. Interesting, they go from 410 to 450. That's still below the market price, but the market's actually liking it. Stock's up $3.82 here this morning, and it's trying to sniff back up to yesterday's high, which was 457.34. Previous day's high 457.15. So you could kind of call that a double top. So you think we take that level out here today?
Dennis, are you doing your homework? Because that area also coincided with a high that you had in May too. So
Big level.
yeah, big level. Did get it over there. Did get a little bit above it here in the pre-market, but if you could take that out, things really open up. I mean, 360 might be a little bit of a psychological 360. What am I saying? 460. A little bit of a psychological level, but after that, I don't see any major resistance until the May 9th high of 463.
ExxonMobil down $1.50, just to give you a quick update there. And the S&P future is still sitting up here near the highs. We just ticked 1694.5. So the S&P future is looking fairly strong here, still holding up, trying to get up to that 1695 area. Is that the all-time high on the S&P future? 1695? Is that what the number is?
Yep. 95 and a half.
95 and a half. So that's the bogey.
Yeah, Dennis, did you stick an order in there at 92?
Oh, it did. It kissed her. It kissed the 92, didn't it? Bounced right off it. Maybe they're listening to the show. Those traders.
Not much.
It's up 18 cents from the bounce. So that's our show for today, guys. Have a great day. We'll be back at you tomorrow.